Good morning, everyone. Welcome to NJ Casa's virtual conference. 3 days to talk about centering the margins. I am J.Nicole, the grief bully. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for having me. I am certainly excited and looking forward to getting into this conversation with you today. I do not take it lightly whenever I have the opportunity to get in front of audiences, people like yourself. You're doing such a great service to our community. And today, I get to serve you. So I want to encourage you to sit back, relax, free yourself from distractions, be here now. There's so many important things that we're going to touch on today, but the most important thing, if you walk away with nothing else from this entire conversation, it's going to be about you. For some of us, when's the last time we've thought about ourselves? When's the last time we've even considered putting ourselves first? Maybe we don't know how to do it. Maybe we haven't created that space or had that grace or opportunity to do so. But today, even though we don't know each other just yet, I consider you family, and I'm going to give you permission. I am going to give you permission to put yourself first. So you got to do me this favor. Through the duration of our time together, put yourself first. Keep yourself at the forefront of your thoughts. Now, you could cheat, because technically, I can't see you. But we're going to do the honor code. How about that? Honor code, everybody? Okay. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. Self-compassion, self-care, this whole concept of doing versus being, in addition to how do we live our lives? How do we do our work? How do we continue to show up when we have so many things in our lives that are heavy, the experiences, the pain that we go through, but then still being able to extract some joy, bring parts of happiness back into our life, back into our livelihood, where otherwise that might not be possible. So those are some of the things that we're going to touch on today. And as the Grief Bully, I'm the host and producer of the Grief Bully podcast. So what I'm going to do is walk you through my journey, my experience of doing similar work, sitting across from people in some of their most difficult times that they've ever been through, and being able to be present for them, but also finding that balance and being able to be present for myself as well. So if you'll have me, let's get into it. When I think about self-care, if you're anything like myself, maybe you feel this way also. I'm thinking spa day, I'm thinking manicures, pedicures, maybe a weekend full of Netflix. Sounds pretty good. But it does not have to be something, if you will, tangible. It doesn't have to necessarily be an experience. Because let's face it, a lot of us have extremely busy schedules. Our demands are just pulling on us constantly. But really, self-care at its core could just be 10 seconds of your time, 10 seconds of your day. And so while we get into this, I'm going to start with this challenge. Remember, the honor code, right? So wherever you are, you're free from distractions. You're not looking at anything. You're not reading anything. You're not looking at your phone, anything like that. Free your hands from everything. Focus on the screen. Watch my eyes. And we're going to do this. Close our eyes right now. I'm going to do it too. So it may look silly, but I'm going to do it with you. And we're going to take some deep breaths. Let's just free our hands and just take some deep breaths. So we're going to close our eyes. We're going to center ourselves. We're going to be here now so we can get into this conversation. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do one more together. Inhale. Exhale. Now that right there, that was a moment of self-care. How many of us are guilty? How many of us have not even allowed ourselves, given ourselves that permission in our schedule, in our day, just 10 seconds to lean in, to be still, to just honor ourselves and where we are? Because life just demands and it pulls and it pushes us in so many different ways. And in this line of work, in this service profession, we are all in. I know you're all in. You don't have to tell me. I know you're dedicated to what you're doing every single day. And so that brings us to this conversation about doing and being. I think it's one of those things that we may not realize that we're doing because society doesn't really give much room for this. We're living in a culture and a time where the grind, hustle now, keep pushing, keep going. Like, we need to encourage people to push pause more and stop saying push through. Keep pushing through. So let's push pause. So we're talking about doing. That's that action, the thrusting, the pushing, the thriving, the keeping going and not settling. But then we talk about the being, which is the counter to that. The inactive, the receptiveness, the just being still. You might think that, hey, being still and slowing down could be considered a weakness. It can seem like I'm not as dedicated, I'm not into my job, and I care deeply about this profession, so I am all in by all means. But did you know that that inaction is actually equally as powerful as the doing? And that in order for us to be able to execute on the doing and to fire on all cylinders, we also need that balance. We need to be able to give ourselves that space and that time to do that. But I have looked at that like a weakness. I felt like, hey, this is what I wanted. This is my job. This is my career path. These are my people. This is my community. How can I take time off? How can I take a break if I don't return that phone call, if I don't get back to that email, if I don't go out and meet that person face to face? We don't know what's going to happen. And I understand that. I can relate and understand how that might feel for you. But we cannot, and this is going to sound cliche, so don't laugh, don't say that it's corny. It's a reality. We cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot give what we don't have. Even if our intention is there, even if our heart is in the right place and our mind is in the right place and our willingness is there, we just cannot do it. If I had a cup here, I'd show you, so let's just picture I'm holding a cup. And you come up to me and you say, hey, I am thirsty. I am thirsty. Now I have the cup, so you might think that I have it just by how it looks. You might feel that, hey, she has it. She's the person in here with the cup and I'm thirsty. I'm going to her. Or maybe in other seasons you did have it. So they're going to come back to you, the person that had it in that last season. And then right when because again, you have it in your cup, you go to pour and you realize nothing comes out. Nothing comes out. So the intention was there. You might even have been prepared to an extent. But if there's nothing in that cup, you cannot quench that person's thirst. And that's the same thing when we're out in the field and we're serving our communities. If we're not filled up, we cannot pour out. It could sound jovial. It could sound silly. It could sound like something that you've heard so many times in your life. But how many times have you actually stopped and said, well, wait, how do I fill up my cup? How will I be able to do that? Or better yet, I deserve to fill up my cup. I deserve to push that pause. I deserve to give myself that opportunity to be my best self so that I can be the best for those that count on me, that depend on me, that look to me for that help. So in that doing and being, listen, the being is just as powerful. It is just as powerful. And honestly, I think it's more impactful. Because I don't really feel like I burn out from being inactive. I don't think I really would burn out from seeking to fill my cup up. And so then we get into the conversation and we talk about self-care and self-compassion. I think they're different. I think self-care is perhaps maybe an action per se, whereas self-compassion, I think, is more of a feeling. It's an emotional thing. It's a mentality more so. So we're thinking, hey, self-care, I'm taking care of myself. So I want to share this story. A lot of times when there's something that we really want to do, we overthink it. I said to myself, I want to be a runner. Like, I want to run. I want to go out, and the person you see on the road that's running, you beep your horn. Well, maybe it's just me, but I beat my horn and I say, kudos to you. Good for you. That's awesome. And so I asked my friend who's a runner, I said, hey, Nicole, listen, I want to be a runner. I went out, I got these expensive sneakers. I'm asking her all these questions. I'm waiting for her to give me like something. You know what she says? Go ahead, I'm gonna give you some time. Think about what her answer actually was. She said, run. Just run. And I'm not satisfied with that answer. It's got to be more. I need like an Excel spreadsheet. I need some kind of more directives. Maybe even say, hey, do you want me to come out and train you or teach you how to do this? No, nothing. She said, run. And if I can be honest with you, I didn't love that. You want to know why? Because it put too much of the responsibility on me. It put it back in my court. I had to make the decision. I had to choose then to put on my shoes, to go outside, and to run. So how many of you are overthinking the process when it comes to self-care? How do I take care of myself? What do I do? We need action. We just have to take that action, that next step. It's not as complicated as we think, but the paralysis of analysis is keeping us stuck. So the next time when we're thinking again, like I said, the whole self-care part, and it's got to be this big ordeal, just do something. 10 seconds. 10 seconds of breathing. Maybe it's just writing a note to yourself, a letter to yourself. It's really leading with kindness and self-compassion. That's really the key. So the next time you hesitate or you're confused, say just run. Just do it. And then self-compassion is one of those things where we look at it and say, hey, how would I want to be treated in this scenario? How would I want to feel? What would I say to that person that's across my desk or on my phone or in this email? Now just imagine if you were calling yourself, emailing yourself, or having a meeting with yourself. How would you want to be shown up for? How would you want to feel? So it's natural, more natural for a good majority of us to actually go for other people. And the same energy, keep that same energy, and that same energy that we do and we give to other people, I want to challenge you to do that for yourself. Have that compassion for yourself. I know it's cool to treat others the way you want to be treated, but we need to treat ourselves the way we want to be treated. I think when we step more into the self-compassion arena in that era, then we also create those boundaries. And we don't even have to verbally say it. It's the way that you treat yourself. Other people catch wind of how not to treat you. If you respect your time, if you respect those things, then other people can then fall in line as well. Because I know it's so hard to turn your phone off. It's so, for me, I'm like, oh, sometimes I will feel my phone vibrating. Nope, no message, nothing came through. But I'm so attached to it. I'm so connected to it that psychologically I feel like someone's calling me and they aren't. When's the last time you put your phone down? When's the last time you just put it on Do Not Disturb? Maybe you don't bring it into your bedroom with you. All of these things are really small things that could seem like duh, but sometimes we need that reminder. And like I said in the beginning, I want to give some people permission today. Some people are holding themselves to certain standards that aren't realistic. And not even just that they're not realistic, they're not fair. They're not fair because we have to keep ourselves in context. We have to really think about emotional deficiency and how that's a real thing, and that even though our intention is there, we may not always be able to do that. And sometimes, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm talking. Self-talk. Positive self-talk, that positive reinforcement, that affirming to yourself that, hey, I can take a break. I can take a break and I'm not weak. I can keep pushing, but when I know my limit, I'll push pause, and that's okay. Refilling my cup is important for my task. It's important for my journey. It's important for the mission that I am doing and that I'm a part of. And listen, I'm trying to challenge you to put yourself first. And maybe we can't just arrive there and just get there. So here's a life hack. Pick someone in your life that matters to you. Undeniable love that you would say that you would do almost anything for them. Then use that person to in your mind, give yourself that permission to take that break. Say, hey, I've got to be my best self for so-and-so. I've got to be my best self for that person. would this person want me to continue to push through this burnout, or would they say, hey, mom, you need a break? Hey, dad, you need a break. Hey, this person, that person, you need a break. It gets like that sometimes. I wish that we could just hear these talks or YouTube videos or podcasts or whatever, and then just boom, just jump right into action and apply it. It's not realistic. I mean, I think I'm pretty cool, but it's not realistic. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some trial and error. Heck, if you have to actually physically get a mirror out, put it at your desk, put it in your car, your purse, wherever, your book bag, and look at it from time to time and say, hey, self, what's up, self? I want to check in with you right now. Are we good? Are we good, or do you need more? Do you need less? Like, what do you actually need? Because think about it. We're moving through life and we don't see ourselves. But if we maybe really took that time, and again, it could feel slightly awkward, but I think it's certainly necessary for us to do that on this journey, for us to be able to continue to do what we're trying to do in this world. When we're trying to collectively make change and make impact and have that, we cannot do that if we do not take care of ourselves. So back to the honor code. Wherever you are out there right now, I want to make sure that you're tuned in, that you're being here now, that you're putting yourself first, that you're centering yourself as we try to continue to work towards centering these margins. You've got to do that. You have to be a part of the community and make sure that you're focused on that. So I want to get into this. I told you that I would tell you a little bit about myself and my experience and what I've been doing over the last couple of years. So I'm the Grief Bully. I'm the host and producer of the Grief Bully podcast, where we talk about grief. You guessed it. And so you say, well, you're talking about grief and you have a smile on your face. One of my biggest purposes is to try to fix that misconception. I want to combat the taboo about these heavy topics, these experiences that are human experiences that we are going through. And we're not having the conversations. We're not creating the spaces. We're not having as many tables as we possibly need to be able to do more work in this area, to have more impact. And so I do speak about grief, and sometimes I do have a smile on my face because of the work that we've been able to do. And so I hope when you're speaking about the work that you're doing as well in this area, that you can smile about it also. But grief is heavy, and by definition is deep sorrow. And when I started out and I said, hey, I want to start a podcast about grief, people were like, what? You want to start a podcast about grief? First, are you going to even be able to have enough episodes? Secondly, who wants to really hear about that? It's super sad. Why are you even doing that? And some people, honestly, they don't even follow me on social media anymore because it's hard for them to watch it. That's fine. Maybe it's not for them right now. But grief is one experience that we're all going to go through. We're all going to face it in one area of our lives or another. Oftentimes, grief gets perceived as just a death of a loved one, a loss of a loved one. But it's sorrow. How many of you out there have had some sorrow in your life? Raise your hand. I have. First-hand experience. I've lost people that meant a great deal to me. And oftentimes they say that the areas in your life that you are the most burdened are the ones that you do work in. And so I kept feeling like, man, this is wild. This grief is bogging me down. I don't feel like myself. I feel like I'm losing myself, and I don't feel that there are people who truly get it or understand. And so I wanted to be that voice. I wanted to make sure that I had those conversations and I sat with people in their grief, in their trauma, in their experiences. And guess what most of the people have said? They have talked about things that they don't often talk about. They have said things that they wouldn't have normally said. No credit to me. Don't care about me. It's not about me. But it's about creating that space and serving that community, the community that I understand what that feels like. And so some of you might be in your line of work because of perhaps in experiences that you have in life, or maybe someone that you know, or close proximity, or what have you. And so I want us to honor that. I want us to be able to know that whatever it is that we go through in our lives, it's individual to us. There's no one size fits all from that. And this is what I talk about grief. There's no one particular way for us to heal. No one person's journey looks exactly the same. And so what I think that means is we need tons of different voices to have conversations. So you might speak to that person's situation, and you might help that person's situation, and whatever it is, there's greater purpose. But back to the beginning. If our cup's not filled up, we're not going to be able to do that. So how do I find balance? Well, one is I check in with myself daily. Hey, how are you feeling today? Are you able to pour out? Are you able to really give? Would it be better to reply and say, hey, I hear you. I saw your message. I'll be able to get back with you tomorrow. Sometimes, this is a real secret, I tag team someone else in. Hey, I'm feeling a little low today, but this person has this particular issue going on, or they could probably benefit from a conversation. Do you think maybe you can reach out? Or I'll tell the person, hey, here's some resources that we have for you. So just because it's not directly us that's doing the direct to person or direct to situation deliverable, it's still being addressed. That's still a part of doing, but not that firsthand. And that allows us to put ourselves first too. That gives us that self-compassion where we can, maybe for us who don't feel like really taking off the hat and giving ourselves that break, you can say, well, I kind of intercepted that. I kind of helped it. I threw the alley-oop to the person and they slammed it down and took care of business for us. So it's thinking outside the box that has allowed me to maintain and to be able to sustain this journey. And it's super important for us to continue to keep on doing that and make sure that we're checking in with ourselves and that we're honoring ourselves, because honoring yourself is not selfish. Not by any stretch of the imagination. It's absolutely not selfish. So we want to make sure that we continue to do that. And one of the biggest things that I love to talk about is that grief is not a problem to be solved. Not every situation will have a solution or an immediate answer that will solve it completely in its entirety. But we can continue every single day to take tiny little leaps, tiny little steps. A small win here, a small win here will then become a big win. How's that sound? How's that sound to say, hey, you know what? Every single day I am doing something. No matter how I feel, I'm putting something into that bucket to help someone else's life. I'm putting something into that bucket to help someone else's life. But now we got to start saying too, I'm taking a pause on the bucket to help myself and make sure that we remember that. So when I talk about joy, people are like, joy? What the heck? Joy? Joy and grief? Joy and sorrow? Joy and trauma? Joy and pain? Joy and heartache? Joy and devastation? These all sound like oxymorons. They couldn't be further from opposites. But this is the key. The key is to learn, to try to lean into having the two coexist. That intersection where we do not have to mitigate or minimize our pain or our experiences, but we can seek the joy. We can find areas in our lives, we can find things that we can do to give ourselves that opportunity to welcome that joy into our lives. Because joy doesn't just fall there. It doesn't just fall there. It takes a commitment. It takes a choice. Every single day we have to choose joy. Every single day we have to try to choose joy. Listen, like I said before, does it happen overnight? No. Are there some areas and some experiences that we go through that need more than just a choice? Absolutely. Please don't misunderstand me. I would never, ever, ever want to underestimate the magnitude of anyone's life experience. Not at all. But what I do want to magnify is that although you have had that life experience, you're still worthy. You still deserve joy. You still deserve the opportunity to live your best life. And sometimes I think we forget that. We lose sight of that. I did. I've lost a lot of myself along the way, but one thing I can tell you is saying that I want to have more joy in my life. And how will I do that? I will lean into new normals. I will do what feels good to myself. I will honor myself. I will explore. I will get creative. When you're seeking joy and you're seeking happiness in different levels in your life, you've got to get creative. Have fun with it. Ask other people, how did they do it? They always say that closed mouths don't get fed. Well, I'm thinking that closed mouths may not get that opportunity for healing. You might miss that. And I'm hoping that this is somewhere, wherever you are. I wish that we had the opportunity to be amongst one another so we can feel the energy, so we can see who's side by side with us. Oh, look at that person. Look at that person. We're in here together. We're feeling that energy. We're feeling strong. We're building it up because it's a community. It's got to be as a community. We cannot do this isolated. We cannot do this one-on-one. So although we're virtually right now, I want you to, and I hope that you can feel that togetherness. I hope that you can know that we are all on this journey together of bettering the world in which we're in. And that we cannot necessarily escape these bad parts of life. We cannot escape the ugly realities of the unexpected. But what we can do is lock arms. We can lock arms. We can put our hands together. We can also put our heads together. And then we can look up and we say, hey, guess what? We all have this pitcher, not a cup, a pitcher full. We're just pouring. We're just pouring. We're just pouring. We're just pouring out from the best parts of ourselves. We're pouring out from the restorative part of ourselves. Together. That's what we're doing. We're having those tough conversations. We're pushing the envelope. We're bringing issues to the table that wouldn't have normally been there. We're highlighting communities that would otherwise be overlooked. We're recognizing and we're giving a seat at the table to come together and to have these conversations for the people who otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity. We're becoming the voice for the voiceless. How awesome is that? It's hard work. It takes great dedication, tremendous commitment. And you're doing that. You're doing it. You're here today because you're invested into yourself. Actually being here today is pouring into those cups so then we can in turn go back to our own individual missions, still collectively collaborating, but we can pour out more. We can reach more people. So wherever you are, I am giving you a kudos, a round of a freaking applause to you. Yes, you, that person who has self-doubt. You, that person that's feeling burned out. You, that person that looked at me like I had 5 heads when I said joy and pain. Yes, you are doing an amazing job. If no one else told you that, I'm absolutely proud of you. And that joy and that pain, that's what we're doing now. Just because we don't give it a name and we don't label it all the time, and because we're not looking inward, we don't always see what our experience is and what we're actually doing, but we've already been doing. We've already been doing a lot of doing. We're going to get some of that being in there. We're going to get some of that stillness in there. Who out there is going to go somewhere and get a pedicure, get a manicure, go for a nice drive, take a deep breath, Netflix? I love all of those things. I do. Maybe we have to do them more. So they are a part of self-care, but what I was saying is it doesn't always take that. We can give ourselves those 10 seconds during the day, those 5 minutes here and there. It's really important for us to do that, but we can do that. We can have the fun, we can schedule it, we can put it in there together. And I look forward one day to the opportunity to be able to meet you in person and to say, hey, you been taking care of yourself? And I'm going to say honor code before you answer. And make sure that you're doing that because you deserve it. And I want to thank you all so much for this opportunity to be before you today. I want to thank NJ Casa for allowing me here. We're going to get so excited and look forward to all the panels that we have coming up. So many amazing discussions. I kind of had a little bit of a sneak peek, so you want to make sure that you stay still, be here, take notes, whatever you have to do to suck up all of this goodness. Throughout the duration of the next couple of days, I want you to say, hey, I am filling up my cup. And I want you to say, today, what did I fill my cup up with? What did I do? And I hope in there somewhere on the list, we say, I gave myself 10 seconds to breathe. I gave myself that permission. I checked in with self. But you're going to have an amazing time. I know you are. There's so many great things lined up, so much impact here, so many conversations we're going to do. Lastly, you are brave, you're brilliant, you're amazing. Again, thank you so much for your time.